and they are just used as a means of circumventing international law and certain regulations and natural rights of human beings, and they victimize the very soldiers that are part of the apparatus too. Make no mistake, the soldiers themselves are also victims. Now, this might sound Orwellian, but it's the honest truth. I'm not saying here, oh, poor soldiers when there's civilians dying, but I am letting you know that in the bigger picture, there's a order of operations. Of course, civilians are the first in line of being victims and victimized, but the soldiers themselves are there too. Let's not forget, weapons are used that are harmful to the environment around them and to human beings, which is illegal under the Geneva Conventions. Any weapons that have a long-term effect on the environment and human health conditions are illegal under international law. So the soldiers themselves are victims too, like Gulf War syndrome. We now know that it has to do with what was being used in the war.
Thousands are sick and ill and dying from it.
But I don't want to focus too much on the soldiers. The fact is that I was on board the ship with the three Italian nationals, as well as the Italian journalists who were held hostage. They were on there too, as well as one of Gaddafi's son's friend's girlfriend, a Dutch national, and the paparazzi in Malta quickly came to take pictures of her. So we were all on that boat, and these three were part of the war, and they actually essentially admitted it too, and I feel bad for them for being tortured. I do hope they get out of this lifestyle and stop working for organizations and bodies that bring nothing beneficial to humanity.
It's very hard. It's very hard. They're very well monitored, these people. Look, Mahdi,
we have to reach out to them. We have to reach out to everybody.
You have to reach out to them. That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. Who said it's easy? Nothing is easy. Nothing comes easy. Being a human being and having feelings and concerns for other human beings should come easy. This is something these wars are eliminating in all of us. They're dehumanizing us. We're becoming less human, and we're becoming desensitized to pain and suffering, and I'm not desensitized to that in those men as well. I said there's an order of operations, and I don't want to give them the limelight. When the limelight belongs to children and old people and civilians who have done nothing, no sins, no wrong, that have been bombed for the sake of killing people and for the sake of stealing, those are the people that need the limelight more than anybody else. So I don't want to focus too much on those soldiers, but I'm giving you my rationale of why I didn't take pictures of them. That's why I didn't want to put them in a bad spot either, because everybody has a human side too, and these men, I talked to them, and I hope that they'll regret being in Libya, for that.
Listen, Mahdi, I have a question, but it's just a short question first. Do you have any later updates? Are you informed of any developments in Libya?
Well, I can tell you that a friend of mine who's a Canadian, who's in Tunisia now, the two hospitals near her house, the patients were left to die. They were left to die. Electricity was cut off and the patients were left to die. There was fighting. She told me there was a bloodbath in the neighborhood. It was devastated, the area. This is what's going on. I'm sorry to tell you, this is the reality of that war. This humanitarian war is causing a humanitarian catastrophe. And now they're admitting about the water shortages and stuff. They caused the water shortages. They're responsible for the water shortages.
These are very evil people in London, Paris, Tel Aviv, Canada, New York, orchestrating this, in my opinion.
Yeah, they are orchestrating. They orchestrated the human catastrophe.
Absolutely.
So they can make money. They can come bring their NGOs and privatize everything. They want to privatize the water. There's an NGO that goes everywhere the United States wants to be, and it privatizes the water.
Water, I'm afraid, is a golden nugget for spiking, for fluoridating the water. They say Hitler did it. That's well documented, that he fluoridated the water in all the places he conquered in order to dumb the people down. I mean, it's a modern tool that's used. In Afghanistan, they're chlorinating the water, which is toxic. But the ISAF, the American forces and embassies, don't have to take that water.
Yeah, they've always gotten. There's a long history of the treatment that they've been getting. This is very colonial, you know. Colonial administrators have a different standard. You know, in Iraq, there's airlines that Iraqis can't go on. I don't know if you're aware of that. The airlines are just for the colonial administrators. Preposterous. You know, the U.S. embassy is a world unto itself, and these are colonial wars when it comes down to it.
That's right. Racist is another way of saying they're racist wars.
You could say they're racist, but, like I don't think they're racist for the sake of being racist. They're racist for the sake of differentiating into an us and them. Because when it comes to money, I think it comes down to money. And when you need money, you need to have somebody suffering, and you need to have under groups or lower class people. So there's an us and them. You know, today it's the Arabs, but tomorrow it could easily be the Slavs. You know,
Well,
it's
it's
not.
certainly been the Muslims for over 10 years, but this is your show. I have my own opinions that it's not so much
Yes.
for money, that it's for other reasons, including destroying the tribal makeup of the societies.
No, I agree with you. Look, I agree with what you're saying. I think there's multiple reasons, and they all come into play. One thing that I say is not the only reason. We live in a very complicated world. Some things are easy, but there's a lot of overlapping things. Of course, they want to destroy the traditional lifestyles and the tribal systems there.
Yes. The only,
Of course.
NATO's bombing in 6 countries. The only people it bombs are tribes, are tribal people. That's a fact.
Okay, the Serbs, and the Yugoslavs.
Yeah, we weren't at war with Islam at that time. It's actually a conundrum. I don't understand the war against Serbia. I don't offer any rationale for it. But for the last 10 years, all we've done is bomb Muslims,
But
tribes.
what they've done in Serbia is the exact same thing they're doing in Libya. They privatized. They don't own anything. They took over all the major assets there, like in Kosovo. They're just demonizing Muslims because it's Muslim countries they're after today. But if those were let's say Eastern Orthodox Christian countries, they do the same. You know, if they were Buddhists, they do the same. This is why I'm saying I think it's for the sake of an objective. You know, they're trying to redefine Islam too. That's very certain. There's no question about it.
And it started in the Ottoman times. 1924
Yes.
is when the Ottoman
Yes.
Empire broke up. And the
Yes.
Western banks were making them go into debt with interest rates. It's a whole long story over generations, and we're not really informed about this.
Yes, you are 100% right. They did in the Ottoman Empire. They did. This is the starting of these problems. Like, you know, they broke up the Ottoman Empire just like how they're breaking up these countries now. They used the war. They said the war was the reason why they broke it up. But I'm sure you know about Sykes-Picot, the agreement to divide the Ottoman Empire into British and French spheres.
I've heard of it. I don't know about it.
Okay, well, I want to mention one thing that proves that this is a lie. They also tried to do the same thing in Iran at the same time, and Iran was neutral and wasn't involved in the war. So they said they broke up the Ottoman Empire for the sake of the war, but they were doing it to a neutral country too. So this is not for the sake of the war. These are long-term. These are older. You know, you know how the British got Cyprus, the debt machine. They took over the Ottomans' financial system, put them in debt. This is how they got Cyprus. They try to do the exact same thing in neighboring Iran by putting the treasury under their control. So these are very despicable, just pretexts. And yes, the Muslim countries with Muslim populations, specifically in Southwest Asia and North Africa, have been suffering for over 100 years because of the legacy of over 100 years because of the legacy of colonialism, and there's no good reason why. There's no good reason why at all.
Well, let's pray for a world revolution.
I hope people come to their senses, because there might be catastrophe before there's a world revolution.
Yes.
You know, these wars are they're not heading in a good direction.
No, it's madness, and
You know,
there's not
we
not
see
enough for
Syria.
them. Absolutely, they want to expand.
We, yeah, they're talking about Iran.
Yeah.
The Russian envoy to NATO said that they're planning on going to Iran.
Look, we're going to talk all night long, but I tell you what, Iran is so against Gaddafi, they're going to take all the oil revenues and use it for a war against Iran. That's what I see happening.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Well, I've thought it through. Iran is anti-Gaddafi for its own reasons.
Yes.
But the NATO's going to take all of the profits from the Libyan oil and use it for a war against Iran.
I don't know if they're going to use the profits for themselves too. They're not in the best shape. They do want a war with Iran. I think they're going to isolate Iran, and if they go to war with Iran and Syria, we really have the potential for major global escalation. Because let's not forget, these countries they're not alone. There's other players involved with them, and there's other nations.
And everybody's watching.
Yeah, everybody's watching, and you never know what can happen. I have to say one thing about Russia, China, and Iran. The elites there, the ruling elites, are schizophrenic. There are sections of them, fractions within the Tehran, Beijing, and Moscow, that see themselves as being possible partners in the global empire, as having niches, niches.
Well, they must be promised that to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying anybody will keep promises. I'm letting you know that there are these arguments, these contradictions within these countries.
Yeah.
You could see them co-opted before anything like that happens.
Yeah, Russia's already recognized the rebels.
I was told that the embassy there has, I don't know if